Hi everyone and welcome back to the Colour Cave with me Gem, and this is where we like to play with art stuff. Today is Scrawlrbox unboxing day and I have a confession to make that this is actually the second introduction. The original introduction is now at the end of the video because it is basically long and ranty. I wanted to explain the kind of ongoing story and saga of Scrawlrbox, but I'm aware that some of you really aren't interested and just want to see what's in the box. So the amended and slightly shorter version is that I'm not very happy with them as a company, generally speaking, because I'm a paying customer, and I'm hoping that this month's box they are going to redeem themselves and make me a happy camper once again. So I am just going to grab the box and we can get going. Alright everyone, let's boogie. There sounds like there's a pencil in here at least. Not entirely sure what else, but that's what it sounds like. It's not a really heavy box this month. It's kind of middling. It's not heavy, it's not light. Alright, so we will have our usual suspects, and the first one of those is our featured artist for the month. And this looks like, oh, it looks like it's markers maybe. Featured artist Giobbe is a 21-year-old Italian illustrator and graphic design student. Awesome. So there we have some social media links. If you decide that you like this, you can go and check it out. The other thing we always get is paper, and this feels quite smooth, and there are 2 sheets. Okay, so the other thing we always get every month as well is a list of the supplies that are in the box. We always get a sweet, which looks like a Swizzles butter toffee to me, which is awesome. Pigma Micron 01. This is great. I use these all the time and I can't get enough of them, so that's good for me. So that is our fine liner. We have a Faber-Castell Pitt Artist pen in white. Now I'm interested as to how this is going to be of use to us on white paper. That's kind of weird, but okay. Oh, we have a Pigma Micron brush pen as well. I also love these. I already own one of these too. The brushes on these are absolutely fabulous, and I will show you that just shortly. These do come in all different colours. I do have them in lots of colours. This one is black, and it says BR on the end for brush, so that you can tell the difference between that and your actual fine liners, because they are very similar. We have our Scrawlrbox sticker, which this month is back to the good old blue one. We have a Faber-Castell 2H pencil, and we have a set of Winsor & Newton Pro markers, and they are in an interesting sort of coffee tan set of colours, so that is very interesting indeed. And that is our Scrawlrbox. So let's see what it says about the supplies. Winsor & Newton Pro marker. Now I do believe these used to be called, they used to be owned by Letraset, and you still get the Letraset markers, and essentially they are the same marker as far as I'm aware. So let's see what it says here. A versatile alcohol marker. So we have a quite a teeny tiny little nib there. That's quite cute, and I quite like that in a marker actually, because that lets you get into some really tight spaces. And there is a chunky monkey of a chisel nib as well, so you have 2 very good options there. It is blend friendly with a malleable alcohol based translucent ink. Yeah, the fine bullet is very, very fine. I like it. I like that very much. I do find that the bullet nibs on alcohol markers sometimes are really clumsy, so that actually really appeals to me. The Pigma Micron, these pens here, the reason that they're so popular and people like them is they're quite cheap, and the ink is archival, so that means it is not going to go anywhere, and you can use watercolour over the top of it. It doesn't smudge. It's pretty good stuff, so it's really fade resistant, and it doesn't feather either, and that's one of the things that I found using it on things like watercolour paper. It's really, really good because it doesn't bleed or feather at all. So the brush marker is exactly the same thing, it's just with a brush nib, and it's wonderful. I shall show you that in just a moment. I'm hoping that this is going to be really, really opaque and we can put it down on top of some of our marker. I use Faber-Castell 9000 series pencils anyway, and this is what this is. I don't use a 2H right enough, it's not really a hardness I would go for, but this is what we have been given. The Castell 9000 is a genuinely classic pencil launched by Count Alexander von Faber-Castell himself way back in 1905. Awesome. Its lead is fully bonded with the wood surround and is therefore particularly break resistant, the ideal pencil for all technical and artistic applications, and available in a range of graphite grades, but we have supplied you with the 2H, which would be great to lightly sketch out your composition first. The paper is 160 GSM and it's 20% cotton. It also includes a small amount of calcium carbonate for pH neutrality. Okay, excellent. So let's test these supplies out. Okay, first things first, here's my black tester paper. Oh yeah! That's good. Once it dries, it is kind of like losing some of its whiteness, but I'm pretty sure you could go back over that as much as you wanted. It's like a dinky Posca pen. I'll give that a thumbs up. Let's have a go with the pencil. A 2H pencil, let's say it's not a pencil I would use particularly often for sketching out. I tend to use a B, an HB sometimes, maybe a B or a 2B. It's okay, I mean it's just, being an H pencil, it is hard, it's going to be hard, it's going to feel hard. You're not going to get a huge amount of malleability. It really is, you know, more for like sketching an outline rather than actually, you know, drawing a full-blown picture with it. So, but what I will say is you can get some really, really light lines with this. So from the point of view of not having an eraser in the Scrawlrbox, you could, I mean, you can get some really light lines in there. And once you've put down your marker, you will hardly notice that there are even any pencil lines down there. So that's quite good actually, that's quite nice to see. I quite like these pencils anyway. They're high quality, they're not cheap rubbish. Okay, I'm just going to stick this in behind this page because these are markers. They are for, let's test them out. I love these little bullet nibs. So what colour is this one? Spiced. They feel quite chunky in your hand and that it feels kind of out of proportion with this tiny little you know, nib for the size of the barrel. I think it just takes a bit of getting used to. Oh, look at that. That's awesome. Wow, and these are whiffy. Some of you that are regular watchers of my channel will know I don't really like the smell of alcohol markers. These stink. That is really whiffy. Yeah, I'm not loving this. Right, this one is tan. I'm not really liking the colour of this either. That's like the most washed out tan colour I've ever seen. I do like the laydown of the marker, even though it's not on marker paper, it's going down pretty smooth. And we have one called Blush. Ugh. Yeah, so that's, you know, I would say that's a very pale skin tone. Very pale skin tone. So now I've got the Pip pen and I'm just going to try over the top. See if I was to put a highlight on there. Yeah, it's okay. It's alright. I'm going to let that dry and I'm going to go over it another couple of times and see if we can get it really white. Alright, so to show you the fine liners now, first of all I will show you the Micron 01. I think most of you have probably seen these before. I don't know, maybe some of you have, some of you haven't. But they are absolutely superb. The line quality that you get with them is excellent. Some of the smaller nibs, there are a couple of sizes smaller than this, and they, just because the nibs are so small on them, they're very delicate and they split quite easily and they get pushed in to the pen quite easily. But the 01 is a good compromise between the sturdiness of the nib and the fineness of the line. You know, you can still get pretty fine lines with these. And that's what I really, really like about them. I never seem to have any problems with them. I did when I started Inktober. I did have one explode on me right at the start of Inktober, but it was one of the ones that had travelled to Mauritius with me, and yeah, I think it just sort of suffered a bit for that. And also as well, you can get some really crisp, clean hatching with them as well, which is what I like them for. Again, during Inktober, I found that I quite like a bit of hatching. And yeah, they're pretty good pens. Well, now let's just show you the brush marker, and I say these are the bee's knees. I love these. The tip on these is quite firm, but the very end of the tip is not, and that just gives you it gives you a bit more control than a really soft brush. But if you keep your hand light, you will get a really thin line. And you can put the slightest bit of pressure down and you will get this lovely bold thick line, and you can mix that up any way you want, and that is what I absolutely adore about this pen. It does take a bit of practice, and if like me you don't have a particularly steady hand, you can end up in a sort of a pickle. I have said this and I've shown it before in one of my other videos where I was doing a Copic illustration and I really wanted to use the brush marker, and what happened in the end up was my hands were so shaky, like that, just like that, I ended up having to go back over it with the other fine liner, and that was to straighten up and thicken up my lines because some of them were a bit wonky. The key to using these brush pens is confidence and having it. The way that I would sketch, you know, is the habit of using this sort of bitty, you know, section by section technique, when really you want to be sketching and you know, like sweeping lines in as long a line in one go as possible. And it's exactly the same with brush pens. You want to try and do as much as you can in one stroke confidently, and that stops you getting wobbly lines like me. My white pen's dried here now, and you can see it started to sort of sink into the alcohol, which is what usually happens. So we're going to have another coat on there. It's starting to lift the paper, I think. It's lifting something. So while that's drying, I'll just have a think about the prompt. The prompt is growing up. So things that grow are usually, for some weird reason, and I think it's the colour palette, I've got coffee beans in my head. So, I don't know. What does a coffee plant look like? Is that, so like a coffee plant? I'm going to have to look that up. Okay, so coffee plants are green with the beans, and no, it's not going to happen. Not with this colour palette. It made me think of coffee though. I just wonder if I can incorporate coffee into something to do with growing up. See, it really does. It just makes me want to draw like a good old fashioned, you know, one of those massive sort of semicircular mugs that are more like a soup bowl. That's those colours, that's what that makes me want to draw. But that is just not helpful for us right now. Growing up, it's either things that grow, so it's living things grow, so living things are plants, people, and animals. Last time I checked, those were the things that are alive and that grow. So we need to find something that's going to fit in with this colour scheme though, and that's what's kind of bugging me. I'm not sure at all what's going to fit in. I'd just like to point out the bleed through in these markers. It's quite heavy. It hasn't gone on to the black paper though. See if I hold that up to the light, because that light's quite unforgiving. There is not a hint of marker anywhere on that paper, so that's quite good to know, because I see this is just like cartridge paper. This isn't designed to hold marker at all, so it's actually done quite well with that. Because I have done a bit of overlapping in this one, but it's actually quite smooth. I said that already, but it seems to go quite well together, so that's kind of interesting. All right, this is I'm just not convinced about this at all. You're not going to get a gel pen or white gouache type highlight with this. It's just not going to happen. However, you still can get a reasonable tint that the Pitt pen will fight against the marker a little bit, but you're never going to get that absolutely bright white. But at least we know that. As long as you know that, that's good to know. And in terms of the colour palette, I've been thinking just about these things that I've written down here. And I think that seriously, it's going to have to be something animal related or human related just because of the colours that we have here. I don't know. I'm going to have to give that some thought, I think. This to me is a much better Scrawlrbox and much more the kind of thing that I would expect from Scrawlrbox. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to do a quick marker test. I'm just going to do a quick marker test on this paper to see what it's like. I don't know if there's a right side and a wrong side. I'm assuming that both sides will be the same because it's not marker paper. So here's the light colour. Yeah, so just do a quick test on this paper here. I don't really want to ruin an entire sheet just by testing the materials out on them. I always think that's such a waste. But you need to know what you're getting into. This paper seems to take these pens really well, which is what I was hoping, because that'll make things a little bit easier for us. And here's the darkest one, which was Spice. And strangely, I really like this colour. Yep, same thing again. The darkest one it's sunk through the paper a little bit, but it hasn't left a mark on my mat at all, so that's absolutely grand. I'm assuming everything else, the paper itself, the texture of the paper is quite smooth, so I don't foresee any issues with any of our other supplies. Yeah, it's taking that pen really nicely. Which, as I say, I would have expected it to. Yep, no problems at all. And again, just like we did in the test book, I'm just going to pop a little one of those in there. Now that is pilling the paper quite quickly. That was just one layer of the Pitt pen on top of the marker, and you can see that that's caused an issue, so this isn't actually going to be all that great for what we want it for. I'm just going to try it on this other one. Yeah, that's pulling the paper up pretty quick. I was being as light-handed as possible there and still starting to pull the paper up, so that's really not that great. I actually got on better with it in the tester book than I did on the paper, so take from that what you will. Alright, so let's just have a quick recap then while this is drying. I will go back and put another layer on this in between doing all this. Today's Scrawlrbox has included our featured artist, who is Giobe. We have 2 sheets of this lovely 160 GSM paper. We have our Scrawlrbox sticker, our Scrawlrbox suite. We have the card with the list of materials on, which also has our Scrawler challenge on the back, which is growing up. 3 Winsor & Newton Pro markers in a complementing palette. Faber-Castell 9000 2H pencil. Pigma Micron brush pen in black. Pigma Micron original fine liner in 01, which I do believe is a 0.25, hang on, yeah, a 0.25mm line width. We have a Faber-Castell Pitt pen in white. And there you have it. That is the entire contents of this month's box. So you can see there, that is 2 layers of the Pitt pen, and it has completely ruined the paper. It's just not good at all. I tried to be as light as possible on this one, and I barely put a second coat on it, and it still started to pill the paper up, but it's not as bad. So that is what we have to deal with for the Scrawler challenge, because this is the paper for the Scrawler challenge, which is a bit disappointing, but never mind. Overall, I have to say I am much more impressed this month with this box. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think this is an improvement on November and or December's box? And would you have any ideas that pop into your head for this month's Scrawler Challenge? Because I certainly don't, and I'm going to have to do a hell of a lot of thinking before we get round to the video. So stay tuned. If you like the Scrawler Challenge videos, it will be up in the next week or so, and you can tune in for that. Thank you very much for joining me today, guys. This has been good fun, and we shall see you soon back in the cave. Bye for now. Just before we jump into the unboxing, I want to kind of tell you the ongoing saga of Scrawlrbox. First and foremost, I am a paying Scrawlrbox customer. I do not get sent them for nothing, nice as that would be. But I am a fully fledged paying member and I pay my subscription yearly, so I have paid for boxes up until August. And everything has been absolutely awesome the last little while until about November time, and in November the boxes were very late arriving, and it was to the point where I actually sent an email, which some of you know about, to Scrawlrbox because it was to do with a distribution centre. It wasn't to do with Royal Mail from what I could gather. Anyway, I got a very nice reply. The contents of the November box were questionable, and some of you picked up on that as well. It was kind of borderline office supplies rather than what I would deem as art supplies. There was lots of ballpoint pens in there, quite cheap pencils. But, I mean, that's okay. Everything was fine. And then in the December box, I felt personally was just a bit of a kick in the teeth. Rather than finishing your year with a bang, they gave us basically a pack of highlighters and a couple of permanent markers. Now that in my eyes does not constitute art supplies, so I was really disappointed with the December box. And after what had happened before with the November box being a bit kind of iffy, and the fact that the boxes arrived so late, maybe Scrawlrbox are kind of losing their mojo a little bit. But then I thought, you know, new year, they might have lots of great ideas and new stuff coming in for 2019, so let's just wait and see what happens. So around comes the shipping time for January, which they say on their website I think is between the 17th and the 19th of the month. I'm sure it's the 17th. The link, interestingly, for Scrawlrbox will be in the description if you want to check the website out anyway. I digress. So the shipping date rolls round, and normally they send you an email to let you know that you've got a box on the way. So a day or so later, an email notification pops up, and it basically said, "Ha, bet you were expecting to have a box being shipped. Well, guess what? You're not." And they said that basically one of their suppliers had let them down and it was going to be delayed by X amount of whatever. So that was fine. I was kind of annoyed though, because you don't wait until the boxes are due to ship and then tell your customers it's going to be late. They must have known before that, because they would have had everything boxed and ready to go by the date that they sent that email out, and they didn't. So why couldn't they have sent it out a bit earlier? Now I know to most people a subscription box, it doesn't really matter if it's a couple of days late. It's over a week late now, but that's beside the point. But for people like me who not rely on it for their channel, but I make a point of, you know, unboxing it as soon as it comes through the door, and I have to augment my YouTube schedule around that. So if I'd known that a bit earlier, I might have not had to sort of scramble about and sort out videos. Just overall, just now, I'm just not that impressed with Scrawlrbox, and I'm really hoping that this month's box and the contents of this month's box are going to kind of make up for it and have them redeem themselves a little bit, because I am starting to grudge the subscription money now when, you know, there's all these things going on. And it's a shame, because as a person I am quite forgiving and I'm quite open-minded, and I don't make snap decisions at the drop of a hat. I don't knee-jerk. I take time to think about things, and there has been a couple of the Scrawlrboxes that people haven't agreed with or haven't liked, and one of them was the bullet journal box. Now to me, yes, it's not going to be your cup of tea, it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but what you've got to remember is that these guys have to keep the content of these boxes fresh. They can't keep sending out the same stuff every month. So taking that into account, things like the bullet journal box I understand, although it might not have been the best arty box, but I just felt November and December one after the other, it's as if they were like clutching at straws because they didn't have anything worthwhile, and it's just like, oh, let's just bung in as many office supplies as we can and we'll pretend it's, you know, an art supply box. It just wasn't. And more to the point, I think it was the November box. I could have picked up those supplies for like half the price of what we actually paid for the subscription for the box, so that made it a little bit worse. But generally speaking, I am very open-minded and quite forgiving, and I'm really hoping that this January box is going to kind of redeem them a little bit, because I want them to be good, and I want Scrawlrbox to do well as a company, because I really enjoy it, and they are the only one in the UK, which price-wise makes it a really good prospect for all of us that are in the UK, to not have to ship one in from the US and pay you know, a lot on shipping. So it's in their interest. They kind of have a monopoly on the UK, but that doesn't give them an excuse or a right to have a subpar service that people are paying for. The last thing that's happened, which made me really annoyed as well, was in amongst all of this that's been happening the last few months, they put a post on Twitter saying that if they got 10,000 followers, they'd give away a free box. And I'm like, do you know what, that just, it really irked me. So I left quite a snarky comment underneath, and I said I would actually prefer it if you made a contingency plan for when suppliers let you down, so that the people that are actually paying to get a box might get one when they're supposed to. And I just left it at that. Yeah, it just rubbed me up the wrong way. I'm not normally like that at all, but I'm starting to get a bit of a bee in my bonnet about all this, you know, the whole thing now, especially as I say, being a paying customer. So anyway, that's enough. That's where we're up to, and let's get into the unboxing and see if they have redeemed themselves in the start of 2019. If you've made it this far through the video, I commend you, gold star for you. You can check out other less ranty Scrawlrbox type videos from the choice on the right hand side here. And if you haven't subscribed already and it's something that you fancy, hit that button now. Thanks again for watching, guys. Bye bye.